again welcome you to this important evening. We have Mananiya Advani ji and Mananiya Goyal ji with us. They are two very important leaders of Bharatiya Janata Party, which is one of the fastest growing political party in India. Although Advani ji will be formally introduced later, I would like to say that he is our leader of opposition in Indian Parliament and has been the former president of Bharatiya Janata Party. Goyal ji, can't hear? Can you hear me now?
Bring it closer to your mouth.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. Goyal ji is the treasurer of BJP of All India level. So we have a two important officers of this party with us. As a matter of fact, when it was announced that they are coming to visit us in December, and those of you who keep track of what's going on in India, you will know that a lot of things are going in India, including Ekta Yatra, and we were really concerned whether the party will let their two top leaders be out of the country at such an important point. And we are very glad that they were able to join us this evening.
It is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you Shri Lal Krishna Advani, the leader of the opposition in Indian Parliament. Advani ji has been invited to the United States by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace to participate in one of these programs. Advani ji has been active in public service since the days before independence, when he became involved in RSS activity at Karachi in Sindh. Since then, he has held many public offices, including that of the chairman of Delhi Metropolitan Council, to whom he was elected in 1967. In 1970, he became a member of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of the Indian Parliament, and while there, he was elected as the president of Bharatiya Janata Sangh and remained in that capacity until 1977. At which time he was appointed Minister of Information and Broadcasting in the Janata government. During his term as a minister, Advani ji introduced the Prasar Bharati bill in Parliament to grant autonomy to television and radio. But because the government fell, the bill was never made into law. Also, while he was minister, he was the first who allowed that opposition parties were given equal time on television and radio. Advani ji continued to hold his seat at Rajya Sabha until 1989, when he was elected to the Lok Sabha, the lower house of Indian Parliament. Over the last year, Advani ji's popularity has increased to such an extent that BBC audience voted him to the Man of the Year for 1990. Meanwhile, Advani ji continued to serve as the leader of the opposition as well as being the parliamentary leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, which is the second largest and fastest growing political party in India. I like to read a small quote from one of the very famous journalists in India, Janardhan Thakur, by far the cleanest and the strongest leader in Indian politics today. This is the remark given by Janardhan Thakur in India. And so, without further delay, now I like to give you Sri L.K. Advani.
Dr. Israni ji, Shri Agrawal ji, my colleague, Shri Goyal ji, and friends. I am extremely grateful to the Indian community here in Houston for having turned out in such numbers when this function has been organized by my colleagues. it may be surprising for some to know that for practical purposes, this is my first visit, not just to Houston, but it's my first visit to the United States, properly speaking. I did pass through this country 6 years back when I was proceeding to Canada to participate in an interparliamentary conference at Ottawa. I spent a couple of days in New York and a day in Washington. But this is the first proper visit to the States, an extended visit spread over 10 days or 11 days. And today happens to be my 9th day in the state. And in 9 days, this is the 8th place I am visiting. So it's been a hectic rush from here to there. And as I told my colleagues here, that when I go back home, I would be able to tell my colleagues that I did meet large sections, representatives of the Indian community in America. I did have interaction with some select representatives of various sections of public opinion in America through the medium of the Carnegie Endowment, which had invited me and which arranged a face-to-face program day before yesterday at Washington, D.C. But if anyone asks me, what were you able to see in America? I would only say that I saw only NASA in Houston, nothing else. And to be able to see America, as they say, as a visitor or a traveler, as a tourist would see, I would have to wait for another opportunity. Otherwise, even my children would be asking me, did you see the Disneyland? You went to Los Angeles, did you see Universal Studios? I'd have to say no. I was not able to see it, and I will have to wait for that. I come to America at a time when momentous changes have been taking place the world over. Changes of a kind which could not have been anticipated a few years back. Who could have imagined that 2 years ago that a day would come when the Berlin Wall would be pulled down and people will be taking bits of the wall as mementos to be preserved to show to their children and grandchildren. And the two Germanys would fuse together and become one. Who could imagine just a year ago that Gorbachev, who seemed to be at the top of the world, would no longer wield influence or power in the Soviet Union? And not only that, who could imagine that USSR, one of the superpowers of the world, this one country would split up into 15 countries, into 15 republics. No one could have imagined all this. Change comes about very naturally. Change is the order of the universe, but very rarely is it that change comes at such a furious pace as at which it has been taking place in the past 2 years. What to say of the world when I think even of myself, my own party, within the country? I feel greatly under strain by the responsibilities that are coming upon my party and on me because of the pace of change. I well remember in 1989, I was the party president at that time, president of the BJP, and foreign journalists coming to India, not quite familiar with the facts of the Indian situation, but simply knowing some broad facts, broad details, that the Congress party is ruling the country, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi is the Prime Minister, and the Congress party is the dominant party in India. There are some opposition parties, not very strong, but among the parties which matter, one party is the BJP, and so naturally they'll probe around here and there, try to meet someone from the government, someone from the Congress party, and then try to see whether they could meet anyone from the opposition parties also, from the Janata Dal, from the communist parties. And one such important party having been named as the BJP, they would try to seek me out also. I remember one such journalist coming to see me, interviewing me, asking me about my policies on various matters, and casually in the course of his inquiries saying, Advani, Mr. Advani, how many members do you have in Parliament? And I started looking here and there, wishing that he forgot that question and moved on to the next question. But he would persist, and I would have to concede to him, tell him that my party has 2 members in the Lok Sabha. Just 2. Because in the year 1984, the 8th general elections to the Lok Sabha were held, and in that election, even though from among the opposition parties, the BJP secured the largest number of votes and the largest percentage of votes, the number of seats that we secured in the Lok Sabha was just 2. Here, going around the tables during the dinner, I could meet many friends from Andhra. Quite a few of them are engineers, some of them doctors. And the BJP is not supposed to be a strong party insofar as Andhra is concerned. Yet, by an irony, in 1984, out of the total strength of the party in the Lok Sabha, 50% came from Andhra. Because the total strength was only 2. And by a strange irony, the person who was elected to the Lok Sabha from Andhra, he had the privilege and he had the pride and good fortune of being able to defeat a Congress member who today is the Prime Minister of India. This was the situation in 1989. Because the elections held in 84 were for a period of 5 years, and the next general election, the 9th general election to the Lok Sabha, was held only towards the end of 1989. It was an embarrassing position for my party, and I, as president of the party, was very conscious of it, though I was also confident that the party is growing in strength. The party has been able to acquire a credibility with the people which is bound to reflect itself in the coming trial of electoral strength. And when it came in 1989, we were able to prove ourselves. From 2, we increased our strength in the Lok Sabha to 86. It was a tremendous leap. But it was a leap in terms of only legislative strength, parliamentary strength. In terms, because many of the people are not familiar with the arithmetic of elections held by what is known as the majority system of elections, which is known as first past the post system, in which the number of seats that a party gets is not at all in proportion to the number of votes that the party secures. And in 1984, the BJP had secured 7.6% votes. and secured 2 seats. Our strength increased by just 4%, and we got around 11.5% votes in the next elections, and the strength in parliament increased from 2 to 86. That's a different matter. It would become a talk and a lecture by itself if I were to go into the intricacies of electoral voting. But in 1989, the BJP came to be recognized as an important party. Though there were political analysts who said, well, BJP has got 86 seats because there is a strong anti-Congress feeling, anti-establishment feeling in the country. People have been disillusioned with the Congress party, more particularly because of the Bofors issue, which had given Congress party and its leadership a very bad name. And the feeling had spread that here is a party where even the top leadership is not free from scandal. And therefore, when the opposition parties decided to have seat adjustments, the Janata Dal, which was the principal opposition party at that time, led by Mr. VP Singh, decided to have seat adjustments with the BJP. Everyone said BJP also benefited. It has nothing to do with the BJP's ideology. It has nothing to do with the BJP's program. It has nothing to do with the BJP's policies or the BJP's leadership, but the simple fact that the people are unhappy with the Congress party and the people are unhappy with the manner in which the Bofors issue has been handled by the Congress leadership. Therefore, they voted against the Congress party, and naturally all the opposition parties were beneficiaries of this negative vote. The analysis was not incorrect. Even in 1989, when people asked me, what do you attribute your success to? I candidly used to say that the principal factor that has contributed to my success is a negative vote, anti-establishment feeling. But I also used to add, while in the case of all other political parties, including the principal opposition party, the Janata Dal, it is only the negative vote which has contributed to its success. In case of the BJP, it is the negative vote as well as the positive vote which has contributed to my spurt in strength. In the case of the BJP, people have also started looking at it as a party with a difference. It does not merely talk about the failures of the Congress party, but also points out that BJP would like the economy to be emancipated from state control. BJP is a party which thinks that if the country's unity has become fragmented over the decades, if national unity after independence has not been able to be consolidated, it is because of our perverse practice of secularism. It was in the year 1988-89 that the BJP projected its concept of what is genuine secularism and what is pseudo-secularism. And in that course, we mounted an attack on all other political parties in India, and in a way contributed to our own isolation. Today that isolation has become sharper and sharper, and one adverse consequence of that isolation has been that very often the image that the BJP has acquired, particularly in areas which are not in direct contact with the BJP, and the people here or people living abroad are not in direct contact with the BJP, and therefore if they acquire an adverse image of about the BJP, I do not blame them. I would say it would be but natural. Now these days, the BJP is introduced to audiences as BJP, the right-wing Hindu fundamentalist party. I had a longish discussion with editors of the BBC once. The Director General Designate of the BBC called on me only a month back. Again, I tried to impress the same point. I said, is it fair for you to be introducing the BJP to your audiences as a right-wing Hindu fundamentalist party? You tell them what the BJP stands for, let them come to their own conclusion, whether it is fundamentalist, whether it is not fundamentalist, whether it is right-wing, whether it's left-wing, whether it is centrist. But you present to them what the BJP stands for, what the BJP says, not that even before they come to understand what the BJP stands for, you introduce it as a right-wing Hindu fundamentalist party. And he seemed to appreciate, though he asked me if we want a single label which can be projected. I said, you choose your label. Am I to give you a label? Then he suggested 1, 2, 3 alternatives. I said, all right, this may not be quite accurate, but I would accept it, doesn't matter. Now, why has this come about? Why? So let me first of all deal with this subject itself. And I have always said, let no one forget that in 1947, when India became independent, independence normally arouses a lot of elation, joy, jubilation. It's a proud occasion for any nation to become independent from colonial rule. But as everyone knows, India's independence in 1947 was not an occasion for elation, at least not unmixed joy, not unadulterated jubilation, because independence was accompanied by the partition of the country. And partition was accompanied by large-scale killings of innocent people. Partition was accompanied by perhaps the biggest mass migration in all history. Millions from Punjab, Sindh, northwest frontier provinces, from East Bengal, came over to that part of the country which is today India. Millions from Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, partly from Gujarat and Maharashtra, went over to that part of the country which is Pakistan. It was mass migration of a scale history has not witnessed ever, not before, not after. And therefore it is that I say that it was not an occasion for unmixed joy. But it was independence nevertheless. The country became partitioned into two. The Congress leadership was of the view that India is one country, it should not be partitioned. But the Muslim League and its leader Muhammad Ali Jinnah said that India may be one country, but Indians are not one nation. Indians are two nations. And this two-nation theory brought about the partition of India. The country was divided into two. And what was the basis of partition? Religion. Hindu and Muslim. Areas which had a Muslim majority became Pakistan. Areas which had a Hindu majority became India. The basis of partition was religion. Pakistan declared itself an Islamic state, a theocratic state, where Islam would be the official religion. If India had done likewise in 1947 and declared itself a theocratic state, I am sure that the world would not have blamed India. No one would have blamed the Congress leadership. They would have said that the Congress leadership did not want it. The Congress leadership wanted an undivided India in which both the so-called nations could live together. But you have forced this kind of division on India. Therefore, what choice have they except to say that now this is a Hindu country, it's a Hindu nation, and it's a Hindu state. But the Constituent Assembly of India did not do so. They chose to frame a constitution in which there would be no official religion, no state religion. I can tell you, it may surprise many to know, but I have been emphasizing again and again, even if in 1947 India had opted for theocracy, the world would not have blamed India, but those of my way of thinking, those of the BJP's way of thinking, would have thought that we have strayed from our path. We have done something which is contrary to India's culture, history and tradition. Theocracy is alien to Indian history and Indian culture and Indian tradition. In our country, the state has never chosen one form of worship in preference to another form of worship. In our country, we have always been of the view that all roads lead to God. Irrespective of the path that you choose, irrespective of the form of worship that you choose, if you pursue it honestly, sincerely, with faith, with devotion, you would attain your conception of Godhood. Not only that, India is a country which has a very remarkable history. In times in which departure from the accepted religious faith was always regarded as heresy. In every field, so much so that if a scientist propounded the thesis that the earth moves round the sun as Galileo did, it was said that, what are you talking? Don't you know that the scriptures say that the sun moves around the earth and you are preaching heresy? Scientists were prosecuted for this. Scientists were pestered for this, harassed for this, tormented for this kind of propaganda. That was the time. Those were the times. And Galileo had to recant. He had to say, I was wrong. It is the sun that moves around the earth, not the earth that moves around the sun. My belief was wrong. My propaganda, my preaching was wrong. I accept that I was wrong. And he was therefore acquitted. He was let free. And after being let free, the anecdote is his saying, my saying so does not change the facts. It doesn't change the situation. In India, even in those days, early days, and when bulk of the people living in India subscribed to some or the other form of theistic belief, they were God-fearing people. There were thinkers like Charvak. Charvak was an outstanding thinker who has written a lot. His particular philosophy is known as the philosophy of Sankhya Darshan. And his thesis was, which can be summed up in that famous couplet in which he said, Yavat jivam sukham jivet, rinam kritva ghitam pibet, bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutah. Meaning that those who tell you that do good, behave well, because if you do well in this life, in the next life you will be rewarded for it, they are all fools. There is no such thing as another life. Whatever is here and now, and therefore eat, drink and make merry. Rinam kritva ghitam pibet, literally meaning take credit and drink ghee. I'm not referring to the credit cards prevalent in America. But the philosophy was of crass materialism. And that philosophy was not accepted by society. But it did never happen, never occurred to anyone that this Charvak is preaching materialism, he is preaching an anti-religious philosophy. And he said it. He said all this nonsense about having Shraddha, to give food to the Brahmins so that it reaches the ancestors who have passed away. What kind of nonsense is this? And those Pandits who ask for food, when they go on a tour abroad or go elsewhere, then give food only to their children, starve them, let us see whether they survive or not. All kinds of things were said by him, very irreverent. And yet, what was society's response? Society's response was that Charvak was hailed as a rishi. He was described as Rishi Charvak. Rishi means a seer who can look to the future, whose views you may not accept, but we respect him. We respect him for his original thinking. In a country where this is the tradition, we cannot think of a state which says that only this religion is correct, all other religions are incorrect. And therefore, this is the official religion of this country, all other religions have nothing to do here. It is therefore that I say that if in 1947 India had opted for theocracy, it would have been something that would have pained us, made us unhappy. And so when people ask me, what will happen if BJP comes to power? Will the constitution of India change? Will you abandon secularism which has been promoted by the Congress party for the last 40 years? I said, for God's sake, don't remind me of the secularism of the Congress party. What kind of secularism is it? Is it secularism? The constitution says, even while committing itself to secularism, it says that there shall be a uniform civil code for all citizens. The state shall endeavor to have a uniform common civil code for all citizens. This was accepted as a directive principle of the constitution. And today, if the BJP says that there should be a uniform civil code, there should be a common civil code for all citizens, Advani, this is not right, this is anti-secular. This is anti-minority. I said, how does it become anti-minority? When the Britishers had separate codes for all religious groups, it was always said that they want to keep all these communities separate. They want to divide and rule. Therefore, they had kept it separate. But I cannot understand why, if monogamy is good for the Christian, if monogamy is good for the Hindu, why is it bad for the Muslim? I can't understand. No, Advaniji, you want to impose the Hindu law on all. These are the arguments advanced. And in order to meet these arguments, because we had never thought in these terms, we wrote down into our party manifesto that BJP is of the view that the directive principle in respect of common civil code must be implemented. And in order to implement it, what will the BJP do? The BJP will ask the Law Commission to get hold of all the different laws obtaining in the country. The Hindu law, the Muslim law, the Parsi law, the Christian law, and pick out among these laws ingredients which are progressive, modern, and which could bring about harmony in society. Draft a common civil code on the basis of these ingredients and elements. Have a debate for 6 months or 1 year and enact the code. Is it communal? Is this fundamentalist? Matter ends. They don't talk about civil code. They say, don't talk about civil code. It will annoy people. Whom will it annoy? It will annoy, and privately they come and tell me, बात तो अडवाणी जी ठीक करते हैं आप, हम नहीं कर सकते, हमारे वोट चले जाएंगे. What you are saying is correct. But we can't say it because if we say it, we lose our votes. It's sordid electoral expediency which is distorting the perspective of many political parties and which is responsible for many of the problems. India is a vast country. Many groups, all kinds of groups. And there are cases of discrimination against various groups on various counts. My party has been pleading, let us have a human rights commission which takes cognizance of cases of discrimination against any group. Today what we have is a minorities commission. It takes cognizance of discrimination of any kind against the minorities. I said, why have this minorities commission? Why not the human rights commission? Because the Human Rights Commission can take cognizance of discrimination against minorities, against majority, against any group. I do not want a distinction between the two. See, we told you so. BJP is anti-minority. They want the Minorities Commission to be abolished. We have in the country 28 states. We have Tamil Nadu, we have Andhra, we have West Bengal, we have Odisha, we have Assam, we have Rajasthan, we have Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, we have Kashmir, we have Punjab, we have Haryana. And BJP's view has been that when the constitution was framed in 1947, the constitution makers were not right in their calculation of the developmental responsibilities that would come upon the states in course of time. And so what they did was, while allocating the resources available to the union and to the states, they concentrated all authority in the hands of the center. And the states were starved of resources. The resources given to the state were very inelastic, very few and inelastic. And the resources made available to the center were enormous. The result is that over the last 4 decades, gradually the states have become totally dependent on the center for subventions. They do not have money. They do not have resources. My party's view has been that let us reallocate the resources. Let there be a total devolution of financial powers in favor of the states, in favor of all equally. We are not going to agree to any proposal which says, let us give greater autonomy to Kashmir, let us give greater autonomy to Punjab, let the other states remain as they are. What would be the consequence of this? Would it not convey a message that the right thing is done only when someone rises in revolt, only when someone picks up arms, someone shows strength, then the right thing is proposed to be done. Whatever is right must be done in all cases, and whatever is wrong should not be done in any case. People say that there has been alienation of Jammu and Kashmir. There has been alienation of the people of Punjab. There was a meeting of the National Integration Council in Delhi, presided over by the Prime Minister just 3 weeks back. And when I participated in it, I said, I do not deny that there has been alienation of sections of the population, both in Jammu and Kashmir as well as in Punjab. But who is responsible for this alienation? Why has it taken place? There was a note circulated by the government which said that in case of Kashmir and Punjab, the alienation has come about because of the activities of Pakistan. I said I do not agree. I do not agree to this kind of analysis. I would say that the alienation has preceded Pakistan's meddling in our affairs. It came about first. I said any visitor to Kashmir or Srinagar, in the last 40 years, whenever he went there and came back, he used to say, why is the attitude of the people of Kashmir of this nature? Why is it? You have to think about it. And I said, my party has been of the view, not today, but for the last 4 decades, that Article 370 was a temporary provision, was intended to serve a very temporary purpose for a very limited period. And by allowing it to continue for all these 4 decades, we have created a psychological barrier, a psychological wall between the people of Kashmir and the people of the rest of India. I was told immediately at that conference, well, Advani-ji, Article 370 was the result of a commitment given by us to the people of Kashmir. I said, what kind of statement are you making? Do you realize the implications of it? Do you understand? And who has told you this? I have gone through the records of the Constituent Assembly. I have read every single speech of Pandit Nehru, of Srimati Gandhi, of Rajiv Gandhi, of all Prime Ministers in respect of Article 370, and no spokesman of the government has ever said that Article 370 was the result of a commitment given by the government of India to the people of Kashmir. I said, I remember very well, and I quoted from the Constituent Assembly records that when Gopalaswamy Iyengar piloted this particular article, moved this particular article in the Constituent Assembly, and said that while in all other cases, in all the cases of princely states, the constitutions of those states, because Jaipur was a state, it had a separate constitution. Jodhpur was a state, it had a separate constitution. Indore was a state which had a separate constitution. All these states, the constitutions of those states have become part of the Constitution of India. An exception is being made in the case of Jammu and Kashmir. The moment he said that, a senior member of the Constituent Assembly, who happened to be a Muslim, Maulana Hasrat Mohani, stood up to protest and said, Mr. Iyengar, why this discrimination against Jammu and Kashmir? And the reply that Iyengar gave was that I do admit that it was discrimination. But let us understand that there are special circumstances because of which this kind of distinction has to be made. And what are those special circumstances? He recounted them. Number 1, Kashmir has been invaded by Pakistan. Number 2, the matter has been referred to the United Nations. Number 3, we have agreed that even though Kashmir has acceded to India, that accession would be deemed final only after the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir has ratified that accession. I said these were the 3 conditions. And all the 3 conditions have been fulfilled. A Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir has ratified accession. We, the government of India, have told the whole world that we do not regard the matter as pending before the United Nations. And even Pakistan in 1971, after the war, when it agreed to the Simla Agreement, accepted that hereafter the matter will not be debated at the UN, but we will sort it out bilaterally between India and Pakistan. The sum and substance or the essential ingredient of the Simla Agreement was that it superseded the UN resolutions. So far as India and Pakistan are concerned, both of them agreed that we'll sort it out bilaterally. I said, Iyengar's speech did not end there. Iyengar went on to say that I can understand the unhappiness of this Constituent Assembly at this Article 370, but I can assure the Constituent Assembly that this is a temporary provision. And we shall see to it that very soon a time comes when Kashmir becomes as fully integrated with the rest of the country as are the other states. So that if there was a commitment and assurance and promise given to the people, it was given to the Constituent Assembly by the then minister in Nehru's government, who said that Article 370 will be a temporary matter. What an irony that Iyengar's statement at that time was cheered by the Constituent Assembly. The records have shown in bracket applause. When he said that this will be a temporary provision and very soon it will go, there was applause. And nowadays in Parliament, when the Prime Minister stands up to say that Article 370 will remain, it will be permanently there, it will not go, all the members cheer except my 117. And I said it in the House. I said it in the House. In this House, those who support continuation of Article 370 may be in a majority. But I would say that if anyone were to go outside and take an opinion poll among the people, whether in India or outside, an overwhelming majority of the people will say that Article 370 must be repealed, it must go, and Kashmir becomes a part of India. These are the issues on the basis of which my party is dubbed fundamentalist. My party is dubbed anti-minority. My party is dubbed anti-secular. Someone will say, what about Ayodhya? I say yes, I'll come to that. I'm not omitting that. Except that Ayodhya has come up only in the last 3-4 years. And this charge of fundamentalism, this charge of communalism, this charge of being anti-secular, this charge I have heard since I was a youth, when I had just joined the Bharatiya Jana Sangh under the leadership of Dr. Shama Prasad Mukherjee. This charge was hurled at Dr. Mukherjee himself, who laid down his life at the altar of Kashmir's unity. It was he who for the first time raised this issue of Article 370 way back in 1953 and gave to the nation the inspiring slogan, एक देश में दो विधान, एक देश में दो प्रधान, एक देश में दो निशान, नहीं चलेंगे, नहीं चलेंगे. Meaning thereby that if India is one country, why should we have two constitutions in one country? Why should we have two flags? Why should we have two presidents? At that time, there was Sadr-e Riyasat. There was no governor. And the Sadr-e Riyasat had to belong to Kashmir. Even till today, it may surprise many to know that Mr. Narasimha Rao can become the Prime Minister of India. But Mr. Narasimha Rao, even if he goes and lives in Jammu, goes and lives in Srinagar, he cannot be elected to the Panchayat of Jammu and Kashmir. There are people here who came from Sialkot, who belong to Sialkot in Punjab. And Sialkot people, or even I belong to Karachi, Sindh. I came over to Delhi after partition. If I had chosen not to come to Delhi, and if I had gone to Jammu, if I had gone to Srinagar, my condition would have been that I could have voted for the Indian Parliament. I could not have voted for the Jammu Kashmir Assembly. I could not. Not only that, my children could not have been employed in the Jammu and Kashmir state government. Children could not have got admission to any technical college in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, a girl belonging to Jammu and Kashmir, if she marries a boy who is from Punjab or who is from Gujarat, she forfeits all her rights in her parents' property. This is the result of Article 370. And Article 370, some people think that it protects the poor of Jammu and Kashmir. Jagmohan, who was the governor of that state, has written an excellent book on this entire issue of Jammu and Kashmir, in which he says that as a result of Article 370, the wealth tax is not applicable to the rich people in Jammu and Kashmir. It applies to the rest of the country, not to Jammu and Kashmir. And therefore, it is the affluent people and the rich people in Jammu and Kashmir who have a vested interest in seeing that Article 370 is not removed, not the poor. This is not an issue, this is not an occasion on which I'll be dealing only with Article 370, but I am referring to the issue of secularism, genuine secularism. And in that context, I would also like to point out that these days, very often talking of Kashmir, people talk about human rights. And human rights are being suppressed. What have you to say about it? I said yes. Wherever human rights are suppressed, it is wrong. But is it only murderers and butchers who have human rights? 200,000 people belonging to the Hindu community whose ancestors have been living in Kashmir Valley for centuries, for millennia. They have been entirely turned out from Kashmir and they are living in camps in Jammu and Delhi in pathetic conditions. No one talks about their human rights. No political party in the country talks about them, except the BJP. I regard this as a concrete evidence of pseudo-secularism. Their secularism tells them, don't talk about them, they are Hindus. Don't talk about Hindus. People say that you talk about Hindutva, you talk about Hinduism. I would ask them, if you go through my manifesto, you will find that there is no reference to any denomination. Throughout the reference is to the Indian nation. Indian nationalism, that is the keystone. But I don't shy away from the word Hindu. I don't feel apologetic about the word Hindu. When I frame my policy, I do not have only 82% in mind. I have the 100% people of India in mind, irrespective of their faith. I frame my policies accordingly. But I would tell all political parties that the interest of India cannot be thought of excluding the 82%. You cannot forget those 82% and think of the interest of India. This is the approach that the Bharatiya Janata Party has adopted. And over a period of time, secularism is practiced in a way as to lead to very comical and absurd situations. 4 years back, the television in India showed a serial, Ramayana. After that followed the Mahabharata. And there were very high intellectuals discussing whether the projection of Ramayana and Mahabharata on Indian television, is it not promoting Hindu fundamentalism? I said, what's gone wrong with these people? I asked them, when one of the journals and their reporter came to ask me this question, I said, it is only in India where you can have a debate of this kind that is showing Ramayana on the television promoting Hindu fundamentalism. In no other country would a debate of this kind take place. I do not know whether in America, when Hollywood and Cecil B. DeMille made that famous film, The 10 Commandments, there was any discussion and debate here if Hollywood is promoting Christian fundamentalism. It's only in India that this can happen. Only in India. These days, do you know, a popular serial going on there is Chanakya. The famous Prime Minister of Chandragupta, who has written that treatise, well-known treatise, Arthashastra, Kautilya's Arthashastra. It is supposed to be one of the outstanding books on Indian polity. And the maker of this serial has taken great care to see that he is as authentic as possible so far as the sets are concerned, so far as the sites are concerned, even so far as the quotations from Kautilya Arthashastra are concerned. It's very well done. It's the same kind of attraction that Ramayana and Mahabharata had. Though Ramayana and Mahabharata were known, this is not known. This is something new. Yet, it's spellbinding. And when it was permitted, he was permitted 52 episodes of the serial. And lately, it has been reported in the press that he has been called by the Indian TV and asked to wind up in 26. 18 are already over. And he has been now told that within 26 you must wind up. Why? They say that your serial is showing a lot of saffron color. And this is indirectly helping the BJP. Can you imagine? It makes me laugh really. It's not tragic, it's comic. And when they said this, the costume designer and the set designer of that serial, he happens to be a Muslim, one Imtiaz Sadiq or something was his name. He issued a statement. He said that I have been charged with this responsibility to make the sets as authentic as possible, to choose costumes which are true to what can be researched about those times, what were the flags, etc., that were displayed at that time. And only because the BJP has a saffron flag, therefore I am not going to be dishonest to my task. This is pseudo-secularism. You become shy of associating yourself with the word Hindu. You think that secularism means disowning the essential personality of the Indian nation. I do not subscribe to that. 4 years ago, there was a National Integration Council meeting in Delhi in which a communist member raised a discussion on what was the big issue. He said, government functions are held, and when they are inaugurated, the inauguration is done by lighting a lamp. This is a Hindu practice. This should not be done. I said, comrade, what has gone wrong with you? What do you want? You want a tape to be cut, that's all. And very many VIPs who go to cut tapes, if they find that the scissors are very good, they are silver. I said, what is this nonsense? Such a graceful ritual it is, such a graceful ritual. It may have its origin in the temple, just as many of our classical dance forms have their origin in the temples. But on that account, are we going to become shy of Bharatnatyam? Are we going to become shy of Kathakali? Are we going to become shy of that only because their origin is in the temple? Similarly, if lighting a lamp is a practice which starts in the temple, nothing wrong about it. I am sure that if India feels proud of inaugurating a function with the lighting of a lamp, many countries of the world would emulate us. They would say, well, let there be light, there shall be light. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Let us move from darkness to light. In the West, when a new ship is constructed, they launch the ship by breaking a champagne bottle with its keel. I remember the Shipping Corporation of India constructing its first ship. And there was a discussion and debate, how should we launch it? Break a champagne bottle? And it was decided, rightly so, that we will not break a champagne bottle, we will break a coconut. And they have been doing it since then. Though my communist comrade would say, no, this is breach of secularism. This is religious. This is going against secularism. God's sake. Please understand. Please understand. What is it that makes India one? India is not one because it was ruled by the Britisher. No. India is not one because there is a central authority in Delhi. No. Even when the Britishers were not here, even when India was divided into many kingdoms, many kings, small princes, even at that time, when Jagat Guru Shankaracharya thought of spreading his message of Vedanta, he was born in Kaladi in Kerala, but he did not confine himself to Kerala or the roundabout region. He thought it necessary to go from Kerala to Kashmir, to go from Dwarika to Puri, from south to north, from west to east, traverse the whole country at a time when there were no modes of communication, either go by foot or at the most by bullock cart or horse. And he traveled by foot. Even in his small brief life, he did not live long. He went throughout the country. The conception was that the culture of this country is one. And it is this underlying unity, cultural unity, which the BJP has been trying to emphasize throughout. The religion is not one. Religion means forms of worship. Religion means how you think you can achieve God. Most of the people in India, those who are called Hindus, worship some idol. Some worship Ganesh, some worship Shiva, some worship Lakshmi, some worship Durga. But there are Hindus, Arya Samajis, who denounce idol worship, who say that idol worship is wrong. Don't believe in idol worship. Yet they are Hindus. Forms of worship are many. But the culture is the same. You go to any part of the country, Ramayana and Ram evoke a kind of a response that nothing else does. Nothing else does. I have always said that Rama, according to some, may be God incarnate. But Rama, according to many and according to all, was a great person, a great ruler, an ideal person, a Maryada Purushottam. And I would say that this kind of inspiration or this kind of attachment should be from all Indians irrespective of their faith. I remember 25 years back witnessing a dance drama in Delhi. A ballet troupe had come from Indonesia, from Jakarta. And that dance drama that they enacted on the stage in the Fine Arts Theatre was Ramayana. 105 artists came on the stage. Out of these, 102 were Muslims. A journalist asked one of those Indonesian artists, "How is it that you are performing the Ramayana? You are Muslims, all of you. Indonesia is an Islamic state." They said, "Yes, we are Muslims. We believe in the Quran. We believe in Prophet Muhammad. I offer namaz 5 times a day. But you should know that in Indonesian culture, Ram and Ramayana are held in high esteem." If this is the attitude of Indonesian Muslims, why can we not have the same attitude in India also, irrespective of whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu? When the Bharatiya Janata Party decided to undertake the Rath Yatra, to mobilize people for the support of the Ayodhya temple, it is this that we had in mind, that it's not a religious issue. No, for millions it may be a religious issue, but the BJP picked upon this because we think that if we allow the cultural unity of this country to be weakened, we will permit the unity of the country to be weakened. 6 years ago, I had a longish discussion and debate with a communist MP. And I told him that your theory that India is a multinational state is a dangerous theory. It can lead to the disintegration of the country. Don't forget that Jinnah's two-nation theory led to the partition of India. If you propound the multinational state theory, And if the people come to believe in it, or your viewpoint gathers strength, the result can be disintegration of the country. He says, what's this nonsense? Advaniji, you are unnecessarily afraid. You don't have confidence in your own country. And look at it. So, see, Soviet Russia. It's a multinational state. Every republic, there are 15 republics. There are 15 different nations. And every one of them has been conceded under the constitution of the USSR the right to secede. No one secedes. What would he say today? Would he say anything today? And I would tell him that simply because a constitution has been framed in which all the states have been brought together under a single authority, and Moscow is the headquarter of that country, that in itself is no guarantee for the country holding together. Something much, much more is needed. And that much, much more is cultural unity. In India today, the biggest asset of the country is cultural unity. We cannot afford to minimize that. We cannot afford to underplay that. And it is therefore that the Bharatiya Janata Party keeps on emphasizing these facets which we regard as evidences of the country's cultural unity. Friends, I have dealt with this issue at some length because I think that a right perspective must be projected. True, on the economic sphere, what we have been saying all along, now the Congress party has at least made some announcements which seem to come towards that path. We have welcomed it. Deregulation, decontrol is a good thing. 8 months back, the Izvestia of Moscow wrote an interesting editorial. The editorial was on the state of the Indian economy. And Izvestia wrote that India's economy is bad. India's economy is stagnant. The reason is that India imitated us. Candid confession. But I was inclined to add, India's economy is bad because we imitated you, but India's economy is not as bad as yours because we did not go the whole hog. Because we may have imitated them in the field of industry, we may have imitated them in the field of trade, but one good thing, one redeeming feature was that India did not imitate Soviet Russia in the field of agriculture. There was a time when an effort was made to impose Soviet pattern even in the field of agriculture in the name of cooperative farming, in the name of collectivization. The Kisan, the farmer in India, resisted it. My party, which was at that time the Janasangh, campaigned against it. And the result was that that did not happen. That is a redeeming feature. Then a great ray of hope is in the fact that the talent that we have in India is astounding, amazing. Look at what people who have come to the States, who have gone to Canada, who have gone to Europe, who have gone to Malaysia or Singapore or Hong Kong, what Indians have achieved. One has to see to believe it. I often recount an experience that I had when I visited Malaysia. This was a decade back or even more. There was a reception there organized by the embassy. And I met several Malaysians who told me an interesting fact. They told me that here in Malaysia, the affluent people, when they grow old and choose to retire, they go and settle in some European country. Some go to Germany, some go to France, some go to Switzerland, some go to Holland. They go and settle there. But if in their old age they become ill, and that illness entails a surgical operation, they do not undergo an operation in Bonn or Paris or Geneva. They come back to Kuala Lumpur. I said, it's amazing. That means your surgeons are so good. He said, no, it's not my surgeons, it's your surgeons. Most of the surgeons, he said, most of the surgeons here in Kuala Lumpur are Indian surgeons. And most of them are Sikh surgeons. And his next remark was very interesting. He said that when our gentleman who has come from Geneva to undergo an operation here and have his kidney removed because the kidney has failed completely and the doctors have advised removal of the kidney, when he gets out from his anesthesia and sees a bearded person and a turbaned person over his head, he feels reassured that only his kidney must have been removed, nothing else. Now these experiences are heartening, flattering. They make me feel proud and confident that the country has a bright future if only we are able to create the right kind of climate at home, the right kind of climate. Wonders can be achieved. We have lost considerable time, no doubt. We have to make up for that. And it is this kind of approach that the BJP has taken upon itself, and when I come here, I can only say that you, in your own way, whatever way you can do it, some of you are American citizens naturalized, some of you are NRIs who are Indian citizens who are living here. You can contribute in your own way, creating confidence in India, because there are people who go about propagating the Soviet Russia toot gaya, ab ye bhi toot raha hai. Nothing of the kind. Nothing of the kind. Yes, there is need for mobilizing the international community to put pressure on Pakistan that it must stop its nonsense in Kashmir and Punjab. Terrorism is a crime not against any individual, not against any country. Terrorism is a crime against humanity. And when terrorism is state-sponsored, it becomes evil. Adventurers taking to terrorism, a group of adventurers, is one thing. It can be overlooked, it can be ignored. But when you have Pakistan aiding, abetting, arming, training, running training camps in Pakistan or in Pak-occupied Kashmir to train terrorists, it is an evil. It's an undeclared war. It's a proxy war, as the Prime Minister said. And therefore it is that whomsoever I met during the past 7-8 days from the government of US, I said, I can tell you one view that is held in India very largely, very generally. And that view is that if America wants, they can stop Pakistan. I said it may not be very precise, it may not be very correct. But this is a view very widely shared among the Indian people, that if America wants, they can stop Pakistan. I know that during the last 1.5 years, Pakistan has conveyed to, America has conveyed to Pakistan its strong disapproval of what Pakistan has been doing. Strong disapproval. But I would say that it should go beyond disapproval. If one single wrong act by Libya can make the people decide to declare Libya a terrorist state, why cannot the same approach be adopted in respect of Pakistan? We here can mobilize public opinion in this direction. Let it move in that direction. Let everyone become conscious. Let us also make our own children conscious of their roots, proud of their heritage, proud of all that India stands for. And I am sure that a day will come when all of you You would have no hesitation. These days people hesitate. Can we go back and do something for our country? What can we do? Suppose we come there, what happens? I would say it may take some little time, but things have started moving, and I hope that things will further improve, and whatever contribution you can make from here, I would appeal to you to make it. Once again, I would like to express my deep gratitude for the warmth and affection with which the Indian community has received me here. Thank you.
This is follow lights.
How are you, sir? Dr. Wu, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
And let me, Dr. Isran. Dr. Isran is the dean of engineering at Early Dean Engineering.
Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Good morning. This is Director Patel. And Mr. Advani is interested in space and has been very active in following Indian space activities. So when he was visiting town, Dr. Isran and I thought we had to visit NASA.
Well, let me take you to the window and show you the space center a little bit. The most famous part of our operation, of course, the astronauts, and PJ happens to be an astronaut. He flew on the shuttle and on the Skylab, flew 28 days in the Skylab, our first space station. And our mission operations, so we have the astronaut office. And mission operations, they're going to go to the control center, and that's the part people normally see when after the vehicle lifts off from Cape Kennedy, the control reverts here to the Johnson Space Center, and you'll see the mission control from here, and all the communications with the astronauts are done right here from the Johnson Space Center. And you see our antenna forms out there. You see those large antennas out there back in the back. That's and this was taken from. This was taken on Gemini, on the Gemini, one of our early Gemini. On the Gemini.
Highest altitude, best photo.
Exactly. This is the best picture of India we have in our collection. Yes. And the entire view all the way from the tip to the north.
Yes.
And I'd also like to present you a little memento. This is a better description of the Johnson Space Center than actually. It's from me to you, and it tells you a little bit about the Johnson Space Center.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
Notice things are fairly quiet here. Everyone has headsets on. Plug in the wax. And then talk to each other. Keep going to keep ahead of you. How are you? Can we interrupt you for certainly a few seconds here?
I want you to meet Mr. Advani. These are astronauts.
Hi, how do you do?
He is the leader of opposition in the Indian Parliament, Speaker and Senator Walpole. I'm very big in the leadership meeting.
Great.
These are astronauts who will be participating in the.
आप गुजरात में कहाँ से हैं?
मानसा महसाणा डिस्ट्रिक्ट
हाँ, मानसा परिचित हैं।
We welcome you here.
हिम्मत सिंह जी मानसा के थे।
Himmat Singh, right? Yeah, that's right.
He used to be with us in Parliament.
I see.
Director साहब भोजन के समय साथ थे।
मेरा नाम सिद्ध पाठक है, मैं बनारस से आता हूँ और कैंसर हॉस्पिटल में काम कर रहा हूँ 20 साल से। बड़ी खुशी हुई आपसे।
He is expert on genetics.
अच्छा।
And it's a very well.
आप अकेले आए हैं?
श्रीमती जी इंडियन
अच्छा, इंडिया
नहीं, कैंसर रिसर्च में ज़्यादा इसी डायरेक्शन में हो रहा है सुना। जीन्स के।
जी exactly. Every cancer has its own gene
हाँ.
and there is some mutation in those genes.
No, what is the accomplishment and achievement till now?
There are quite a bit of achievement. I can put the whole thing in just one sentence that if we can identify any cancer in early stage, we can cure any cancer on earth. But most of the cancers are identified at very late stage, and then it becomes very difficult to cure them. You can extend the life of the patient, but you cannot cure it. So we are trying to develop technology.
No, but the approach is to change, replace those genes, क्या होगा?
That is what is called gene therapy. First, we have to identify the gene. What gene is causing this particular cancer? In some cases, we have been successful, like retinoblastoma, which is a cancer of the eye in children. That gene is cloned now. Also, there is a cancer which is common in children called Wilms tumor. That gene is now cloned. But like a breast cancer gene, lung cancer gene has not yet been cloned. So we are working on that as well.
Dr. and Mrs. Durga Agarwal. Durga ji.
नमस्कार.
लरन साजी के साथ में आपके पास आया है. You are very helpful to us.
अग्रवाल भी आई थी.
I'm in manufacturing business here. I'm steel fabrication business. I got my master's and PhD here and then got started in this business. I also have.
कितना समय हो गया यहाँ पर?
पर इंडिया में 5 साल रहने का मौका लगा तो बहुत अच्छा रहा बच्चों के साथ.
Yeah, we took our kids to India. Anu, my daughter.
So they got a very positive.
Hi, come on.
Umesh Verma. Computer consulting company. यहाँ पे Houston. Been here 17 years. Came when I was 16.
So education you had it here.
Bachelor's in chemical engineering and computer science. When I got started, we have a consulting company, do software development. We also set up a company in in Bombay, in SEEPs. So we send a lot of work overseas, get it done there, and bring it back over here.
Murari ji.
Thank you.
Murari Steel distribution business.
Steel distribution. कितने समय से हैं यहाँ पर?
मैं 83 से.
Not very long.
Yeah, not more than newcomers. बाकी सब stalwarts हैं.
हाँ, पुराने.
वैसे इनका इंडिया में भी कलकत्ता में भी काम है, मंगल एंटरप्राइजेस.
विशु बाबू के कुछ हैं?
हाँ, इनके छोटे भाई हैं.
अच्छा, हाँ, बहुत अच्छी तरह.
ये
ये प्रकाश गोयल है मेरे साथ, बॉम्बे से हैं और इस समय हमारे सीनियर टॉप लीडर्स में से पार्टी के हैं, सेंट्रल ऑफिस सारा संभालते हैं और जो भी बाहर भी काम जितना है उसके साथ लिएजन रखने का दायित्व इनका.
Anil Agarwal and Mrs. Agarwal.
Yeah, come on.
अनिल जी से तो मिलना हुआ. नमस्कार जी. नमस्कार. क्या नाम है?
मुक्ता अग्रवाल.
मुक्ता.
मुक्ता.
वाह, अच्छा नाम.
But it's nice to sit here. It's good to see somebody come from there. I think we heard a lot about you.
विशु आपसे छोटे बड़े. My nephew प्रकाश कमल ये पास में यहाँ पर किंग्सविल में पढ़ते हैं.
अच्छा.
प्रकाश. इन्होंने इनको लगा कि पता नहीं कौन है, मेरे मामा है. That's important, very important. But so far as seeing America is concerned, the only thing that I have seen is NASA. बाकी नहीं तो हमको घर में पूछेंगे कि आप गए लॉस एंजलिस तो आपने वो डिज्नी वर्ल्ड देखा कि नहीं देखा और यूनिवर्सल स्टूडियोज देखा कि नहीं देखा.
तो कम से कम आप बता सकते हैं कि आपने नासा देखा.
नासा देखा.
कल आपको फोटो देंगे जी. कल फोटो देंगे.
अब आपने क्या कहा है जरूर देंगे.
सुबह आपको फोटो देंगे. फोटो देखेंगे इसी की बात.
जरूर प्रमाण दिखा सकेंगे.
Dinner.